Recording again. So hi everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Joint Venture Club, and it's a pleasure to have you here. We're going to start off with a testimonial that we received doing a rent-to-own program.
My husband and I were in a situation which didn't allow us to sell our unit, so we opted to rent to own it. We contacted Odin Zavier and explained to him our situation. He immediately started to work in order to find a good tenant owner to our unit, and about 1 month later we were happily signing the agreement. Our experience working with Odin was just great. He showed professionalism, transparency, and knowledge in every step of the process. He took care of our situation, and at the same time he was fair with all the parts involved in the process. We widely recommend Odin to anyone willing to rent to own.
Perfect. So I found that and I was like, oh, that would probably be pretty good to share with you guys. So I want to say thanks to everyone for being here today, for taking time out. I'm going to do my best to finish this presentation in record time. If you have any questions, write them down on the chat. That's really going to be helping out. So let's go through right into the meat and potatoes of it. There's 3 kinds of rent-to-owns. There is the traditional rent-to-own model, and then there is the sandwich lease, and then there is the client-first model as well. So we're going to go through all 3 of these kind of rent-to-own scenarios and help you to understand where you are in the market in regards to rent-to-own. I've also got some documents that we can look at. I've got some processes. I've got some example packages, all the things that you probably want to be looking at. When it comes to a traditional rent-to-own, let's go right into it. It's called the property. The traditional rent-to-own is you have the property first. And so when you saw Elizabeth there talking, she was talking about she had a property, she came to us, we purchased the property, and then what we did is we got our JV partners involved, and it took us about a week to find a person, and then we put them in, and everyone got a great deal. So this is what's called a property first. So I have a property, and I already own it, and I decide that I want to sell it via rent-to-own. Let's go through the whys. Maybe it's because I have a location, and just to let you know that everyone that's on the call here today, the idea is how can you find someone that is currently having a problem with their situation, and they want to find an alternative to selling it and waiting for 120 days or longer to sell their property in a market where it's a buyer's market. So what we do is in sales and marketing, we want to differentiate. And if you're a real estate agent, this is great for you because there's people right now that are listing that really want to sell and they haven't ever heard of a rent-to-own scenario. So if you're a real estate agent, this is great. If you're a real estate investor, this is also great because there's people out there right now that want to have a solution. They have a problem. Maybe it's a problem neighborhood. Maybe it's a slow market. Maybe they want to maximize their profit but not have to deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the headache. I'm definitely one of those. Maybe they don't want to pay a real estate agent's commissions. Those people actually do exist, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. What we got to do is we got to be open-minded to the possibility of a rent-to-own. And this specific strategy, again, a person already has the property. You got to remember it from that perspective. In this particular case with the Harps, what they had is they had a situation where they got jobs out of town and they didn't want to carry a second mortgage. It was pretty expensive at the time. And so we were able to really relieve the pressure on them. And so maybe that's the pain button that you're going to be experiencing, that the people that you're talking to want to relieve in their lives. They want to relieve the pressure. And so let's go through here. Maybe you can definitely market this kind of property to potential renters. And so the important aspect, and one of the great things about Thelma, is that she puts in her contract for purchase and sale. If you're wanting to do rent to own, she has a clause in there. Thelma does. And you should, Thelma, put your name and number for everyone in the chat if you could there. She puts a clause in there, and in the clause it says that in order to remove subjects, she has to ensure she has a rent-to-own buyer. So that really does help. And I just see here that the control was, there we go. I'm going to abort the control. There we go. So let's go back over here. Great. And so the idea is that once you find a property at that point, and there's two clauses we put in the contract. There, I'm back to it. The first clause is we want to find a rent-to-own buyer. We want to make sure that we have the rent-to-own buyer prepared to purchase a property, because what we're doing as an investor is we're finding a property. The property first model is what we're doing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find a rent-to-own tenant. And we need to, if we don't have a list already, this allows us to market the property legally because we've tied it up and we've got our money down as a deposit. And so we're going to remove subjects as soon as this happens. And this gives an opportunity to the seller as well. It's a little bit of a risk. One of the other clauses that we've put in there is that if the owner finds that they actually do get another offer, then we get compensated for them selling it to someone else. And so you can talk to Thelma about those details. Pretty cool clauses, and we have been submitting offers with those, and they are working. What are some of the challenge with the rent-to-own tenants, and you're going to see, is that you're going to have to sort and sift and filter. And we have a couple of people that are online right now that are interested in doing the rent-to-own. And so we're going to be going through that sift and filtering in just a couple of moments. But the sift and filter essentially is, do you have any money right now? The bank is going to want you to put down a minimum of 5% up to 10%. And so in all of the rent-to-owns that we do, we insist that there's a 10% that you're saving up as a rent-to-own tenant. It's going to be really important for you to remember that. So that means that if you're getting a $100,000 property, you're going to want to have at least $10,000 down. Now, if you're getting a $200,000 property, you're going to need 20%, or $20,000 and $300,000. You're going to need $30,000, and so on. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some money that you're going to be able to save up for what's called the option fee. And an option fee is the money that you give to the person who's taking the property off the market for typically 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. And we can get into a little bit more details on that. Now, this is a vast subject, guys. I've been studying this for years and years and years, and it's really not realistic for me to put to share all of it in 45 minutes. So I'll definitely be able to put as much information as I can in here. And then what you're able to do is you're able to contact us and talk to us, and we can help you out a little more personally. You typically need some money up front. And so that means if you're going to have to find an investor, if you're in a rent-to-own scenario, and there are investors that are willing to take a look at your financing binder, and your financing binder is what all rent-to-own sellers are going to want to see. That's going to, how much money you're making, how much money do you have in the bank, what is your credit rating right now. It doesn't matter how bad it is. It's really just finding a good relationship where you can work together and move forward. I know that we have a mortgage broker online here too. And what we'd have you do is we'd have you talk to a mortgage broker or your bank and ensure that the bank or the mortgage broker knows what's happening in this process. You're also going to need a lawyer because you want to make sure that everything for you when you're putting money down is protected. But we go through that process step by step. Now, the idea is you need to be able to pay the down payment over time. So it becomes a forced savings plan for the rent-to-own buyer. For the investor, what that does is it allows us to minimize our risk. It allows us also to have one tenant who's dedicated to buying, while at the same time, we don't have to deal with the toilets or any of the problems. The tenant is the owner, and they will take care of all the increases, all the maintenance, and absolutely everything that is involved in the process. It really does lower the risk for the investor, and it means that the investor is able to essentially take their money, because they have to put, remember, if you're putting 5 or 10% down, the investor is going to have to put 20 to 25% down. So they're investing in you as the rent-to-own buyer. So you want to make sure that you are doing all the things necessary to build a good relationship and show that you are trustworthy, because you can really get a deal. It happens all the time, guys. we heard, I believe it was Craig, has been an investor since 2006, and he's been doing a number of rent-to-own deals, and they work for him. And he just wants the right people, and he does sift and sort those people definitely. Now, when you have a property that you want to sell this way, you are ideally not in an appreciating market. Typically, it's in a medium or a flat market like we are today. So you didn't really need to do rent to own last year or the year before, for instance. You could have just sold it for as much as you wanted. But in a market that's like this is a perfect market if you're a rent to own buyer or if you're an investor that is interested in the rent to own process. And you really don't need your equity quickly. We got to remember that as an investor, if we can exit before a 25-year period, we are happy campers. Essentially, as a rent-to-own buyer, what you've decided is you've decided to buy this property, and we're buying it with you. We're going to be on title. We're taking the responsibility of putting the money down just like the bank would, but you can't go to the bank necessarily. So we're an alternative funding source. And so we understand that our credit's going to be tied up a little bit. And, the idea here is, are you willing to coach the person, is the investor willing to coach that rent-to-own buyer to becoming that owner over a period of time? And that's something that you should be able to do comfortably. So what is a sandwich rent-to-own or sandwich lease? And this is for those people here that that are listening that maybe want to kind of try it out themselves if they're just a renter. So right now there's a number of rental opportunities on Craigslist. So you'd be able to phone up each of those people on Craigslist and say, hey, I'm wondering, would you be interested in selling your property to us? Or be selling your property to me? If I rent it from you, can I buy it from you in 2 or 3 or 4 years? And just see where that goes. Chances are you need someone to help you out with that, and you can use a real estate agent if you wanted, or you can use a coach if you have a coach to help you with that process. That's definitely possible. But the idea is you just phone someone up and you say, hey, I want to buy your property. If it's if it's about the same amount that you're able to pay for rent, let's say $1,000 or $2,000 for rent, maybe you're prepared to pay an extra $500 to own, maybe $2,500 or $2,800, and it's depending on the numbers. And the way that you would run the numbers is pretty simple. Let's just say you need $10,000 to buy a property at $100,000, let's say, and you only have $5,000 of 5% down payment. And you decide that you want to buy the property within 36 months. What you do is you take the other $5,000 and divide that by 36 months, and that would mean that's an extra $138 per month you'd need to save every single month to earn an extra $5,000. And that's really how rent-to-own works. You have to make up the difference. And remember, when you buy the property, that forced savings plan will disappear, and you get to pay that much less because now you have a traditional mortgage. So with the sandwich lease, and I've done a number of sandwich leases. They're what I prefer those personally. What you do is you find an owner that is willing to lease the property out to you with a contract for purchase and sale. You can register that contract for purchase and sale on the property, and then what you're going to do is you're going to sublease that to your rent-to-own buyer, and you can actually make some decent money doing that without putting a penny out of your pocket. And this is just a really great strategy. I've used it. I've used all 3 of the models, and they work really, really well. So what you do is you find a motivated home seller. The same reasons as a traditional rent-to-own. You don't need any money, you don't need any credit, and you don't need any investors. So this is the one for the diehard that realizes, whoa, I can get involved in real estate without money, credit, or investors? And the answer is absolutely you can. It's what to say, when to say, and how to say it. That's probably the only thing you don't know. And if you were to spend a little while with people that do know, chances are that they might share that with you and give you that information. It's a great way to get started in real estate. And it's very low risk if you do it correctly. And I would really recommend, if you're going to be doing this, definitely make sure that you have an investor backing you up, and or at least an advisor that's going to help you through the process. So basically what you do is you lease it with an option to buy, as I mentioned, and the right to sublet. You market it to attract potential renters or rent-to-own buyers. Then you sort, you sift, and you filter. And so the way that you're going to do this is you're going to say, just like if you take a look right now on Craigslist and you type out rent to own, there's a ton of rent to own ads out there. There's a ton of rent to own ads. And you can basically see what's out there for rent to own right now. And you can get some great ideas of what you can write down for, in marketing, we call it copy, what you write down. And that is one way to actually attract buyers. What's also interesting is all those people that are on there is you can contact those people, let them know that you have a rent to own opportunity and say that you're willing to share profits with them. I know that those people are just sitting around in a database somewhere, so there's a very good chance that you'd be able to actually do a deal with them. Now, the client rents to own for about 2 to 3 years from you, and you collect the upfront fee and you sign all the contracts, so you're going to need a lawyer. There's a little bit of cost associated with it, but you can really reduce that cost by working with individuals that have all this stuff already in place. So if we've got contracts, for instance, we know the lawyers to talk to. We've got all this stuff already worked out and thought out. So you don't really need money to get started. You don't even need credit to get started. And that's what's really nice about the sandwich lease. It's a real niche. And I know real estate investors that specialize just in this particular process. That's all they do. And they get between 4 and 10 deals per year this way, plus. So it really does work. You get money up front. So an example of that is that if you want to buy, you've got an agreement to buy, maybe you've got it for no money down, you're going to buy it at X amount of dollars, but your rent-to-own tenant is going to put down $5,000. Well, guess what? You're $5,000 richer now for being able to come up with a strategy exactly like this. Totally doable. It's being done, guys. This is absolutely legal. You talk to your lawyers, and they'll be able to affirm everything that I'm sharing with you today. And so it really reduces, again, the stress of tenants and toilets and everything above. And all the other things that come along with it, and it really is of minimal risk. Now, if you guys have any questions, just write them down, and I'll share. I'll do my best to answer all the questions that come up. Now, what are some lease-to-own cons? Well, you have challenging to find a property. That's true. Can be challenging to find a property. You have to actually make regular phone calls. You got to do the work that other people are not willing to do to have success in real estate. If real estate was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone is not doing it, and even the real estate agents have a hard time doing it. So it's really about being able to pick up that phone and just not giving up. Don't give up, guys. So you have to go through a lot of prospects to find a good one, and that is true. So on average, it's about 1 in 100. So we are working on a rent-to-own right now, and we find that most people think that rent-to-own means rent, and then we have to explain it to them, and then they don't have any money. And so obviously you can't do a rent-to-own if someone doesn't have any money. And there's a higher flake factor, which is what I just kind of mentioned. People actually say, I don't really know if I'm interested in this, or they flake out and they walk away. And it's sometimes the sandwich leases do get a bit complicated with the banks. And so it's going to be important to have a lawyer that does understand how to process these deals and that understands how to communicate with the banks. And you got to make sure that you're communicating with the mortgage brokers and the banks as well. So you want to be upfront with everything through this entire process. Now let's talk about when is it appropriate to do a sandwich lease. Well, basically when there's a motivated seller who wants that as an option. And do you think that there's motivated sellers right now in the marketplace? And you should be saying, yeah, there are. Do you think there's expired listings right now in the marketplace? Well, yeah, talk to Thelma. She can get you those expired listings, right? They're there, guys. You gotta make the offers. You gotta do the work. And if you're someone that wants to do a rent to own because you're renting right now, guess what? Get on the phone and start asking people, are you interested in rent to own? Are you interested in rent to own? And as soon as they're interested in rent to own, what you do is you give Odin a call. right? I'll put my phone number right in the message right here. You can call me and I shall help you because I know that's what you want. And Thelma will be able to help you as well. You can give Thelma a call. She can help you too. And so there are people out there that are able to help you with this process. So ideally, it's ideal in an appreciating market, or at a minimum, or at a flat market, which is what we are right now, at a minimum in a flat market. So you are challenged with money or credit or investors. That's a great way to do it. You just want to get started in real estate in some way, but you have no money to do it whatsoever. This is the way to do it with no money, literally no money, guys. And I've seen it done again and again and again and again and again. And there's nothing as rewarding as doing a real estate deal after you've spent some time, putting it together and having it complete. There's no greater feeling. That's how come I'm still doing real estate after all these years. And are you willing to coach the person through the rent-to-own process? So you have to get a little bit good at the rent-to-own process. Now, what we have next is the next strategy here is a client-first strategy. And this strategy works ideally with a real estate agent. And so what we do is we're going to go out and we're going to find a rent-to-own buyer, someone who actually has money. And we're going to pair them up with someone that has who is an investor that has about 20 to 25% down. And so we want to put those two people together. And so the investor is looking for a rent-owned tenant beforehand. Now, if you're what's called a joint venture triangulator, that means that you know an investor and that you know a tenant. What you can do is you can position yourself as a joint venture partner between those guys, and you can facilitate in the process. You then get a hold of someone like Thelma, and what you do is you say, hey, Thelma, I've got this client that wants to buy a property, and they're qualified through the mortgage broker, and we have a mortgage broker that you can talk to, either someone here or your own, and you just find out how much you can qualify for. And then the investor and the rent-to-own buyer, they've agreed that that's what they want to do together. And then what they both do is they start going out and finding an actual property that they would like to invest in. And it has to fit the criteria of everyone involved. It takes a little bit of time, but you let them choose the house that they can afford. They actually buy in to that house, and then the investor buys it for them. So, what is the client first rent to own model? Well, it starts with the client first. It starts with someone that you know. It could be yourself, actually. You just need to now find an investor. And guess what? At the Real Estate JV Club, we actually have investors that want to do this. So let us know, and we can get a message out, and we can help you out with that process. We, of course, have to sort and sift and filter, and that's the real work. Most investors, guess what? They're working all day long, every single day. They don't want to really be bothered with a lot. They want to just make sure their investment is doing well. And so what we do as a joint venture partner is we go and we say, hey, by the way, we can do the sorting and the sifting and the filtering for you. And they say, really, you can do that? Yes, of course. And will you get paid for that? Well, of course you will, because now you have a joint venture that you're working on together. And that's kind of interesting. That's what investors are really looking for. They want to work with people that are motivated, get up and actually do the work. So then what you do is you collect the upfront option fee, you sign all the contracts, and then you let them choose a house that they can afford, and you buy it for them, or the investor and you buy it for them. And typically that's about a 2 to 3 year scenario. And you can check all of this out online, guys. There's so much information on this. It's just incredible. So rent to own, you can do, it's premium profits. You got pretty houses. You got happier clients. You got better success rates with the tenant first model. You get money up front. You have excellent cash flow, and you reduce your tenant and toilet headaches. And with returns now in portfolios, typically not making more than 3 to 6%, when we look at returns like this, and one of our JV Club members was nice enough to give us a worksheet that we're going to be looking at, and I'll be looking at some deals with you guys as well. We're able to really take a look at what kind of returns we're getting. And guys, we're getting double-digit returns. Higher than 10% returns is what we're getting when we put our money in this way. And that's really what we want to be doing. We want to be getting better returns in everything we're doing. As the rent-to-own buyer, guess what? You get into the marketplace. As the investor, you're helping someone to get into the marketplace, and you're actually making a bit of profit at the same time. The rent-to-own buyer says, hey, you're making money? That's great. I'm getting a property I could have never afforded, and in 25 years, I'm going to be owning that property outright. 25 years, I won't have to pay a mortgage anymore. It'll be paid off. Maybe 30 years. It'll be paid off to zero. In the meantime, guess what? You're paying someone else's mortgage, and you're probably going to be around for the next 25 to 30 years. So when you're retired, do you really want to continue to paying rent to someone else? Or would you rather keep that money and do something else with it when you're retired? And that's how you have to start thinking about real estate. How come real estate is fantastic as an investment? So you really don't need any cash or investors for down payments. You or the investor need good credit. So if you're planning on being the investor, you need to have good credit and you need to have money. And so we have individuals right now that have that and we're looking for rent-to-own tenants. That's exactly what we're looking for. So we don't care if it's if you have a property that you want to sell, we can help you with that process. If you want to do a sandwich lease, well, you know what, we can help you, but chances are you can probably help yourself too. And that's a really good one. And the tenant first model as well, that's what we're talking about. So we can help in all of these processes. But as the investor, you need to be able to qualify for it. You need to pass the stress test. You need to have the 25% down, and you need to make sure that your prospects are the right ones and are willing to put the deposit down. And you need to have your own lawyer. The lawyer is really important in this process. In my opinion, I always make sure that everyone I work with has a lawyer. And you have to go through a lot of prospects to find the right one, but that's okay. That's part of the business. And please understand, guys, real estate is a business. Investing is a business. There's a whole set of processes that go along with that. And you just got to be aware of it. Typically, when people come to our club and they come to all of our events, it takes them a good 6 months, if they haven't done real estate before, to really start understanding the process. If you already are an investor and you're ready to start doing deals, well, this is the place where you can meet people, and we do have deals that are on the go. So you have to have an excellent quality client. They have to have good income, good cash, credit flexibility, and what's most important is a good attitude. We're really looking for attitude. We say a solid appreciating market, a minimum of 3%, but right now what we're calculating our appreciation to be about 1%, which is pretty reasonable in today's marketplace, and that still gives an incredible return. So you have to be willing to coach your client through the process, the rent to own, or you have to be able to get a coach to help you through that process also. So let's talk about a bit about income. So you need to have a good income. You can afford to buy a house. If your credit is in okay shape, we need to make sure that you're going to be able to afford that within 3 years. We recommend 3 years to purchase your property as a rent to own, if that's the ideal scenario. If you don't have the wherewithal right now to fix your credit, or don't have great credit, we can talk to you about fixing your credit up. And so can a mortgage broker and your local bank. So there's lots of resources out there. You just have to ask the right questions. So you want to have cash at hand for your option fee. As you can see right here, is that the gross family income needs to be about $75,000 or more to afford a $300,000 property, and that's about right. Option fee, typically, if you're looking at a $300,000 property, you're probably wanting to have between $10,000 would be the minimum that you need. $15,000 would be good, and then you'd have to make sure there's an option fee for the remainder of the $15,000 in order to do a 10%. And so if you did the quick math on that, what's $15,000 divided by 36 months? You're looking at $416 extra per month to live in a property that you will own within 3 years. And you remember this, in 25 years, it'll be paid off. You won't have to pay the $416 again in 3 years when you buy it. So it's literally a forced savings plan, and there's no better savings plan out there than your own real estate. As Thelma mentioned earlier, some people made more money in real estate than they did in their salaries over the last few years. And you want to make sure, again, the good attitude is there. So Here, what we have is these are the ideal rent-to-own buyers, and I've already mentioned that before. There's new immigrants. They're really, really good. They're new to Canada. They typically come to Canada with money. They're hardworking, and they realize that renting is not really what the North American dream is. It's owning that is the North American dream, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that they become homeowners. And I've seen it again and again with new immigrants. They are really serious. They're probably some of the best people to work with. So if you know an immigration consultant, that might be a really good place to start finding someone for a rent to own. And just to let you know, guys, there's so much business for everyone here today that every one of us could have success doing a rent to own. There's so much business. Across Canada and North America, there's so much business. So there is more than enough for everybody when it comes to this. What is the sticking point is education. You have to be willing to educate people to understand this process. And that takes a little bit of time. Self-employed people are next. We're going to go through that. And then people without credit, people who've gone through bankruptcy, and then people with poor credit. So let's talk about the new immigrant. They really, really, really want to live the Canadian dream. Home ownership is a big part of that dream. Sometimes they come from countries where they could never own, or it's corrupt, or who knows what, or it's unsafe. It doesn't really matter. They're here now, and we want to help them achieve that Canadian dream. As I mentioned, they're hardworking, they're motivated, they have great, grateful attitudes. That's every single one of the new immigrants that I've met has this grateful attitude. They take nothing for granted. They realize how lucky they are to be here. And by the way, I recognize how lucky I am to be here and to be a Canadian as well. So I am very grateful for being here. Thank you, Canada. And maybe they don't have any credit, but that's okay. We can help them build credit over the next 3 years, and they can qualify quite quickly. There are programs that each of the banks have specifically for immigrants. So we just have to get them started and help them out. So maybe there might be some risk in regard to communication challenges. That's all right. What I find is that if you have a listening ear, that means that you can actually just listen. Eventually what you'll do is you're going to be able to pick up the words. There are some accents I have trouble with. And I tell you, I always get over that because I have an ear that wants to listen to what a person is saying. And I just have to listen. I have to ask the questions. Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? And just be gentle with these individuals. I mean, come on, just imagine how difficult it is to come from another country, speak another language, and learning English for the first time. It's crazy. It's difficult, guys. So just give them a little bit of compassion. And there might be cultural differences, but that's okay. No big deal. Canada welcomes everyone. That's what's so awesome about this place. There is going to be a legal status that you have to consider. And so you're going to have to walk the person through the process. And ideally, you have an immigration lawyer, an immigration consultant that will be helping you through this, along maybe with your real estate coach too. So let's talk about self-employed. Well, mortgage rules have changed. Just the other day, we were talking that you can still do stated income. But stated income means that I make $150,000 or whatever it is, but the bank will only give you 50% loan to value of the property. So there's still, that exists out there. So if you're getting 50% for a property, where do you get the other 50% from? So rules have changed. It's really harder for those self-employed people to get in with stated income, as I just mentioned. You need to have at least 2 years of tax returns. And you want to have those tax returns at around $75,000 to $85,000. That's your ideal number to be qualifying for mortgages. With two people, you can get a $600,000 mortgage, and they might change the rules to make it 30-year amortizations. Who knows what they're going to do, but they change the rules all the time. They might have a lot of cash. So they can typically put all the money down for the down payment. What they need is that good credit. So we help them build their credit over time, and there's more control over their finances than employees. So they're able to they're in that self-employed quadrant, and there's a few different tax breaks that they have in comparison to an employed individual. So self-employed is definitely another place that you can go and you can find a rent-to-own tenant if you wanted to do any of the three models we talked above. More about self-employed is that they might be resistant to claiming their true incomes, because of tax implications. If you're saying you have make $85,000 in cash, you're going to have to pay the $25,000 in taxes that are associated with that. So that means you're going to have to be making about $100,000 with the understanding that you're going to have to pay the tax man. So there are some challenges there, but those challenges can easily be overcome, and you can just work with someone through that process. Maybe they have experience doing business, and maybe their length of time in business, they've maybe, they haven't been in business for 5 years, and there's a little bit of a failure rate that's associated with that. Now, I want to try to get on time in regards to finishing this, so I'm going to kind of speed a little bit more through it. So people with no credit. People with no credit, they've never established any credit. Those people do exist. They just need to get credit cards or loans or et cetera. They haven't gotten any of those loans. And I do know people in my circle that don't own any credit cards and never had any loans. That's the way they choose to live life. They operated only in cash. And it's usually very financeable. They're very financially responsible. They do save up money, but they can't afford to pay a house only in cash. So they're going to have to use the strategies we just talked about. And typically a bank won't loan to them, so we have to create a strategy that the bank will actually loan to them. So it's fairly easy for these individuals to establish credit. They're always getting credit card, want a credit card, you're pre-approved. They just have a principle that they don't want to do it. And so they have they tend to have the cash for the option fee, pretty much the entire amount. And they tend to be very good at paying their bills. They hate being in debt. And typically they're very responsible individuals. Bankruptcies is another one. So individuals that are challenged if they have gone through the foreclosure process. And there's lots of these individuals, by the way. All of the people that I've mentioned earlier, you kind of wonder who buys a rent to own. That's what I used to ask myself. Well, guess what? I want to share with you guys, these are the people that buy a rent to own. And if you're an investor, you can kind of know who to look at. And if you're an investor that says, hey, I want someone else to work with to do it, like a JV partner, let us know. We can set you up with a joint venture partner. We'll do all this work with you. It's totally cool. They want to do the work anyway, so you might as well put them to the task. And then there's individuals just want to do it alone, and that's all right also because, hey, that's just part of the process. If you want to do it by yourself, the opportunity is definitely there. So someone who has not made their payments on time through the loans or default, or they haven't paid their loans in the past, their credit history is not that great. So these are individuals that may think that they don't have the opportunity. And so in marketing, you would say, do you have bad credit, no credit? Have you gone through a bankruptcy? Do you want to own? But never really considered it as an option? So that's where your marketing can really go in really well there. There are so many people with bad credit out there, guys. And if they could just get their act together, their credit could be fixed within 2 to 3 years. And so what we do is we create a solid plan. We help them become better money managers. And, but unfortunately, just like it says here, we can't fix people that just don't want to actually have, and if they don't want to be fixed, unfortunately, we can't help them. We have to work with the people that want to be worked with. And there are people like that make those choices. What are some of the challenges with rent to own? It's not the fastest sale. It isn't. It takes time, effort, and energy. You have to be prepared to work on it every single day for a minimum of 30 minutes a day until you reach those results that you desire. And I say 30 minutes, that's a minimum amount of time that I have spent on my rent to own processes. And typically you can spend about 2 to 3 months doing that until you see results. But hey, you know what? I don't mind getting checks for $10,000. If I did 30 minutes, so 60 minutes over, let's say I spent an hour every day, let's say for 30 days, that's 30 hours. So let's say I were to spend 45 hours and made $10,000. Everyone who thinks that making $10,000 for 45 hours or 45 hours is worth it, put your yes in the chat function. I want to see if you're actually paying attention and listening. And let's do the math there. $10,000 divided by 45 hours. Oh yeah, that's not bad. I don't know anyone who wouldn't like to make $222 per hour. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a leverageable skill that will never be taken away from you, that you can always always put into practice wherever you are. And so there's a high flake factor when it comes to rent to own, which means that people just flake out at the last minute or have cold feet. And there is a temptation for the investors to be what's called a churn and burn jerk. And those are individuals that just want to take the option fees. We don't do that. It's unacceptable, and causes problems for everyone in the rent-to-own industry. Don't do it. If you're a jerk, we don't want you here. We won't work with you. We can tell it pretty quickly. So, jerks, go somewhere else. We call those people sharks. And everyone that's a part of the JV club, we're dolphins. We're not sharks. We protect human beings. We don't attack human beings, all right? So so just to be clear here, guys, we want to be helping people. That's exactly what we do. And so let's go a little bit further. Let's take a look at some properties. And I wanted to show you some properties, and we're kind of getting a little bit late over time, so I want to kind of just skip this and go maybe to the calculator here. So here's a real example of a calculator. And what we did is we found a property that was valued at $450,000 in New Westminster. We put an interest rate of about 3%, and with a duration of about 360 months, and for the loan. So about 25 years. Our loan amount is going to be $360,000 because we're going to put $90,000 down as a down payment. This is an investor, by the way. And so now what we're doing is we say we want to put an offer in on this particular property if the numbers come back right. So we say a 1% yearly appreciation. The loan, the contract for the rent to own length is 2 years. The closing fees are typically about 3%. Our equity at the end of the contract, we would make $15,261, and we'd get all our money back as well. Our closing fees are going to be about $13,000. The total investment is about $103,000. The total investment from the down payment of the tenant is going to be about $80,000. That might be a little bit of a mistake. The loan payments are $1,518. Now, if you notice here that this loan payment is $2,474, because you have to be prepared to pay the difference, which is about $1,000 a month, to make sure that you're saving up for your option premium. And that option premium is what is used towards purchasing the property later on. So we have our monthly payments, we have our interest, total interest paid, we have our notice of assessment, we have the actual price, the annual actual price, the future price. We have the future price of, again, we have what the cash on cash return is. A 30% cash on cash return on this particular deal. As an investor, would you do, just tell me if as an investor, would you do a deal where you would get a 30% return? Would you do that? Everyone should be writing yes down, because that's pretty much unheard of in real estate. But there's a lot of moving parts, and this doesn't happen overnight. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a get-rich-quick, or this is a get-rich over 25 years process. It's an actual business. So anyone who tries to sell you on these get-rich-quick overnight, quit your job, do this, that, and the other, guess what? I've been doing this a while. You can do it definitely, but you always want to have that backup plan, and you need that you need to have a cushion to work with. So if you're doing no money down real estate, then I've given you some strategies. If you have money, you definitely have the ability to get a better return than average. If you're a rent-to-own tenant, we want to help you out to get into a property that's reasonable. So this is a tenant's additional contribution per month would be $956 in order to qualify for a $450,000 property. So I'm going to invite you to join the Real Estate Joint Venture Club. We have monthly meetings. This is a short meeting. Our next meeting is going to be happening in North Vancouver. And we have meetings in Richmond, and we have meetings in Langley, and we have meetings in Surrey, and we have meetings in Burnaby. So just check out when our next meeting is. And we have tons of different topics. And this was just a small little taste of what rent-to-own is, and I had so much more I want to share with you. I was concerned that I wouldn't have enough information, guys. That's so hilarious. I can't believe that. We have you talk to your mortgage broker in regards to a financing binder. It's really important. So we also have a bunch of presentations on the internet as well. We have 3 to 6 hour training programs with tons of different topics that will really help you. We have mastermind groups such as today. We have done-for-you deals as well. and you can just go to the JV Club and you can sign up over there. And we heard that some people were having some challenges. So if you have a challenge signing up, you just let me know and I'll help you and walk you through that process. And you can get a hold of us through the meetup groups. So that's probably how you saw us here today. And we also have a Facebook group too. One of the things that I also want to show you, seeing as some of you are still here, I want to show you this. This is one of the real deals that I've done, and these are one of the packages that we create. And this particular deal now is actually, this is worth about 400. This happened to be actually that testimonial that you saw at the very beginning. This is that particular property. And you can see right here, the option fee was $7,500. The rent was $1,800, and they could sublease to another room if they wanted to. And this is one of the things we do. We do a location analysis, and then what we do is we do a walk score, and we just basically show absolutely everything in regards to the property. It took us a week with this information to find someone that was interested in purchasing the property. Some of the other things that I'd like to mention to you guys, if you're looking for someone to walk you through this process, I am putting together a mastermind specifically for rent to own. And so if you're interested in that process, what you're going to do is you're going to text message me, because all of you have text messaging, and just say, hey, Odin, this is your first and last name, and I'm interested in joining your real estate, your rent to own mastermind. It doesn't matter if you have money or if you don't have money. It doesn't matter if you're an investor. It doesn't matter where you're at in the process. You can also email me, and I'm going to put my email. You can also email me at this email right there. Essentially, I want to see more people doing rent to own, especially in this market. I'm going to show you something else here that I think that you might actually be interested in seeing. So just give me 1 second. Some of the things that we have is right over here. Let's make sure I can find it. Okay, let's just stop sharing there. Let's share it again. Right here. So this right here is a lease option. So this is an actual lease option that we've worked. The most important aspect in a rent to own is having the contract. And I've got so much information on my computer, guys, that it's just sitting here doing nothing. And it's too much information for me. I've got my hands full. I'm working all the time already, right? So I want to share this information. I want to see people give great testimonials to us about, hey, I talked to this Odin guy from the Real Estate Joint Venture Club or the North Vancouver Real Estate Club, and they're sharing real information with us, actual information. So one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to go through some of the contracts with you and show you. I'm kind of going through it a little bit quick here. You can pause it if later on and kind of go through it and read it. Some things are in here that are optional. We paid $2,500 for this particular agreement. So yeah, there's lots and lots of information that you can go through. Let's have a look at something else that I had prepared for you guys. Yes, I have this here too. So let's have a look at it. So what I have is I created, and I share this with everyone that I'm working with. It's the quick and easy guide to fix your credit for Canadians. So let's get your credit back on track. So we talk about quick credit repair and the step-by-step process and how you can fix your credit. And this is a great special report to give just away to people that are interested in rent-to-owns. And let's just see. I think that's pretty much it, guys. So I've gone about 9 minutes over. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of today's presentation. We're going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to open up for general questions and say thanks, everyone, for being here today. And we look forward to seeing you at our next events.